Good morning, beautiful people. I hope all is well. I am not going to make a comment about the time, even though by saying I'm not going to make a comment about the time, guess what? I have now made a comment about the time. Nonetheless, I want to welcome all of you to my weekly Q&A. Welcome, Miss Letitia Page. Hi, Ron. How are you? Dreams achieved. Welcome. W. Qvant. I hope I said that right. Welcome, welcome, welcome. If you are new to my page, I would love for you to drop your name and location, and welcome to the land of love. Every Wednesday morning around 9-ish, 10-ish, I come on live so that I can answer your questions anonymously in regards to romance, in regards to dating, and in regards to your romantic life. So welcome, Queen Bee. I'm glad that you have joined us, and I appreciate you because you're always here and you're always showing love. So thank you, Queen Bee. Please feel free to share this live with a friend. You know, we normally get a little bit interesting early in the morning to talk about love and romance. Good morning, Clarissa. Welcome back. Welcome, Fresh. Welcome, welcome. If you are new, please feel free to drop your name and location so I can welcome you to the land of love. And again, my name is Alison. Feel free to share this live, and I'm here every Wednesday in the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock. I'm going to just start moving into 10 o'clock. The 10 o'clock hour to answer your questions anonymously. So if you are not familiar, my name is Alison from Align with Alison. I'm a dating and relationship coach, and I primarily work with women to help them find the love and commitment that they deserve. Hey, Clarissa from Phoenix, how are you? Welcome. Phoenix, let me tell you about Phoenix for a second. There's something about Phoenix that's just, I've never been, I've flown over it, but it's drawing me, and I need to go, I need to visit. And I also thought about moving there like in my older years as a retirement because I love the heat. Like I need to live someplace that's hot. But then I was looking at like the salaries for educators. I'm like, I would have to retire there. I wouldn't be able to work and function. So maybe you could give me some inside track, Clarissa, on Phoenix and living there, especially as a person of color. Welcome, Molly from Oakland, California. Is Mara early over there? Welcome and good morning. Welcome, Misha from ATL. Yes, good morning to all the beautiful women. It's our month. It's our year. It's our time. Welcome, Miss Shan. Welcome, Hair Care by Brittany. Thank you for joining. And welcome, Sherry. Please feel free to share this live with anyone who you think will be interested. Please feel free to share my page with anyone who you think could benefit. Miss Chicago, I'm gonna mess this up and don't hate me, I love you. Venas? Maybe you could break it down a little bit. Yes, Freeze International, what you mean? Of course you're welcome. There are men here in the live. Is that because you're male? Of course you're welcome. This is an open, free space for those to get free advice and free guidance and just talk and share in regards to romance and relationships. So you are absolutely more than welcome. We're going to go ahead and jump in. Again, anyone who is just joining, my name is Alison from Align with Alison. I'm a dating and relationship coach. I primarily work with women to help them find the love and commitment that they deserve. However, in regards to Freeze International's question, this is a live Q&A that I host every Wednesday in the 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock hour. It is open for anyone to ask questions in regards to their romantic life, their even familial or friendship issues, any questions or concerns you have. If you want some guidance from a internationally certified relationship coach, I am here to assist you. On Tuesdays, I post in my story an opportunity for you to put the question right in the story, a Q&A. But if you'd like, you can also feel free to enter your questions at the bottom right-hand corner of your screen. There's a bubble with a question mark. I will share it anonymously. And I will give you my response. But more importantly than just me, obviously you guys are here because you appreciate my feedback, right? And my logic and my train of thought. But I definitely want to hear from you guys. This is not fun if it's only me just talking. So please share in the comments what your thoughts are in regards to the questions that are at hand. I am always going to cover the questions I receive on Tuesdays through my stories, and I will try my best to cover the questions that are entered on the day of. So feel free to put those inside of the bubble, but always know I will for sure cover your question if you enter it in the story 24 hours prior. And the reason why, it's twofold. I'll be 100% transparent with you. One, the more that you guys interact with me in my stories is the more that the algorithm pushes me out, which means that I get my message out more and I grow, right? That's the transparency. But two, sometimes your question requires more than me just thinking off the cuff. And that is actually the in regards to a very specific question I received yesterday. And so I like the opportunity to do a little bit of research, right? Even though I am an internationally certified coach and I have 10 years in the counseling game, I also have a master's degree in mental health counseling. It doesn't mean that I have the answers immediately, right? A doctor still has to go back to sometimes their textbook and talk to other experts in the field in order to get the most appropriate diagnosis. So do I. So I really do appreciate if you guys go in the stories on Tuesday and put your question, but feel free to also put it at the bubble. Welcome, Roger. This might be your first time on a live stream of mine. If it is, welcome, and I'm glad that you're here, and I'm really glad that the gentlemen are showing up, because many times, even though I am a coach who primarily works with women, and I'd like to think that I'm a reasonable human being, no matter the gender that I identify, it's still extremely beneficial for us to hear from the horse's mouth and to hear some of the concerns that they have and their train of thought. Welcome, Unique. All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So the question that required some research on my end, which I'm so happy that I received in my story, so it gave me an opportunity to do a quick Google, was from a woman who asked, how to avoid narcissistic men. How to avoid narcissistic men. Now, so the first thing that I had to do was I had to Google how many narcissists exist, because I get the impression that the term narcissism is thrown around and given as a label too easily, very similar to like the term toxic and sociopath and psychopath. And so folks are using terms that they hear and they have a general understanding for, but it may not be 100% accurate. So I always have to go back to defining the words in the question first, like how we did when we were in school, right? Sometimes you looked at the bottom of the page where it had a little number 1, number 2, number 3 that gave you a definition. So I went and I Googled narcissism and I Googled how many people are actually narcissists, right? Before I could even address the question at hand, because I had to know, like how valid or how legitimate is this concern by definition. And then we could talk about narcissistic traits later on. But the question was how to avoid narcissistic men. So the first thing I did was I Googled, well, how many narcissists are in the United States, right? And so when I Googled it, it said that the estimate is that 0.5% of the population, of the American population, is narcissistic. Now, based on my last Google, which might have been, a year ago, there's approximately 356 million people that are in the United States. And then, of course, you have to subtract the children, the babies, the teenagers, and I don't know what millions, right? Maybe we could even say 100 million, right? Adults in the United States. So we're talking about 0.5% of the population being actual diagnosed narcissists. Of course, the argument can be that, well, there's probably a whole bunch of folks who aren't diagnosed, right? And that's a legitimate argument. But I'm not exactly sure that we're using the terminology appropriately. And I want anybody else who's out there, especially if you have any background in mental health or any experience with a diagnosed narcissist, please feel free to jump right in. So I Googled it. I'm like, all right, 0.5% are diagnosed, which means that it may not be as big of an issue as we like to make it. And perhaps we are using the term incorrectly. And what we need to say is that people are showing narcissistic tendencies. That might be a more accurate account of what we're seeing. So then, of course, what did I have to do? Just like how we did back in school, I had to Google it. So I Googled, what is narcissism? Like I had an idea, like I remember there was some connection to Greek mythology. If you guys recall, it's been a long time since I've been in school, like 10 years. So since the master's degree anyway, and even longer, obviously, before that. So I'm like, I had to Google it, right? And I hear the term, I watch a lot of Criminal Minds, I watch a lot of Law and Order, like I am vaguely familiar with the terminology, but I Googled it, like what is narcissism, right? And what are narcissistic tendencies? And generally speaking, narcissism is when someone has an overinflated belief in themselves, right? But like overinflated so much so that it negatively impacts their ability to function in society. Now, I would be one of the first people to tell you that I have an inflated belief in myself. And I did a whole podcast about why that may be the case. But I have it and I love it and I need it, right? I need to have this inflated sense of self because I feel like society is constantly chipping away at my self-worth as a woman and as a Black person, that I have to have this inflated sense of self so that by the end of the day, I'm back to normal and I have to rebuild it again. Like, I am the most beautiful person you've ever seen. I am the most intelligent. Well, I don't really believe that, but I'm extremely attractive. I am extremely intelligent. And I know for one thing for sure, I have a lot of common sense. And so I hope that everyone has that level of confidence, because when we go through life, we're constantly being attacked, right? There's people who speak down to us, who try to treat us like we're idiots, who try to treat us as if we're useless. Sometimes some of us have faced that in our childhood with our parents. So I need to have an inflated sense of self in order to function, right? But when we talk about narcissism, we're talking about that your inflated sense of self is so large that it negatively impacts your ability to function. It negatively impacts your relationships. It negatively impacts your ability to be successful on the job. You may have menial jobs thinking that you are more than what you are. So, or in terms of station, right? Like, because station and salary doesn't define who you are, but in terms of station, you may think that you are more than what you are. And as a result of not being where you believe you deserve to be, you now mistreat others. So that's a little bit of a background in regards and a quick summary in regards to narcissism. We have Toto, who just joined us from Colorado. Thank you for joining, her and Trayson. We have Polona, who says, what I've heard from psychologists is that narcissists are the hardest to treat because they don't see themselves as having a problem. Also, most never seek professional help. Yes, I would agree. I would agree in that regard, because their particular problem is that they think that they are all that. So then I don't have a problem, right? I'm perfect. What do you mean? Y'all are the problem, which then creates problems in their romantic life. So to go back to the question at hand, this woman asked how to avoid narcissistic men. So again, they are by default master manipulators. It's not something that is easy for you to test or for you to avoid, because this is a part of their being that has developed, right? According to my extremely limited research, it's a combination of DNA, biology, and nurture, right? Nature and nurture. So this is something that they've developed over time. So they are extremely manipulative. So it's not that easy. However, a series of questions will help you to determine this person's self-worth. So if you go by the basic definition of this overinflated sense of self-worth, if you ask questions around their self-worth and their answers match what they actually have established, then you can kind of tell whether or not, right? So for instance, you ask a question about their work, right? What do they do for a living? Now, some of them may blatantly lie to you and tell you a position that doesn't even exist. They may create a title that doesn't even exist, right? And so you will then continue to ask questions. You ask questions about what do they do? What is it in the title? Like, what are their roles? What are their responsibilities? Now, if they're being honest, then you can pretty much assess that you're calling yourself one thing, but in reality, you are something else, right? So Pelly Lady to you says overinflated negative internal voice is the actual definition. Thank you for that. So, but obviously it shows externally, which is why it's problematic in their romantic relationships, right? And this is why the person's asking. So how to avoid narcissistic men. So in essence, when you're asking questions in regards to their quote unquote station in life and their responses are overly inflated continuously, and you're able to assess that, then that would give you the inclination that they may have narcissistic traits or narcissistic tendencies. And so it's very important that we use that terminology, because again, we're not in a position to label anyone as a narcissist, right? But if we want to avoid people who behave in that particular way, your series of questioning and actually listening to the way that they respond is what's going to help you to decide whether or not this is overinflated. So there's a perfect example in education. As a person who is an educator, I can give you this, right? So there are teachers, right? Obviously, teachers who teach a classroom. They have a lesson. They stand in front of the class. They conduct the lesson. The kids break up. They do their work. The teacher checks it. They're the teacher. We know what teachers do, right? We know what teachers are. And there are paraprofessionals, especially in New York City, right? So a paraprofessional is usually either assigned to a particular student who has an IEP, an individual education plan, right? or they are assigned to the class. This person, the paraprofessional, normally functions as, in essence, like an assistant teacher, or if they are directly assigned to the student that they have in the classroom, then they work extremely closely with the student to reiterate the lesson that the teacher just established, right? Another way you can look at it is similar to like a professional tutor. They don't only help them academically, they also help them behaviorally, right? So that they learn the student, they know their behaviors, they know their triggers, and they try to diminish the kind of triggers that could cause their kid to go off. I hope that you guys are on the same page with me, right? But what I've found is that there are a lot of paraprofessionals who, if you ask them their title, they will not tell you that they are a paraprofessional. Now, this is not a slight to paraprofessionals, but the title is the title, right? And the qualifications are different from educators, and as a result, the salary is different from educators. but if you were to ask if you were to ask some paraprofessionals, and I've come across them who have blatantly told me they are a teacher, that's not your title, right? Now, again, I am not saying that paraprofessionals are narcissistic or show narcissistic traits, but I'm giving you an example of the questions that you would ask. You ask someone their title, you ask them what they do for a living, you ask them what their responsibilities are, and they're going to give you a more inflated version of what they do for a living versus what they actually do, or what their title is versus what their actual title is. So to answer the question, how to avoid narcissistic men, it's not easy. However, the first step would be to ask questions. And a lot of times it will relatively reveal itself through inconsistent responses, okay? I see Polona said something in regards to parenting. I read that already. But yeah, it definitely is a combination of parenting and but nature versus nurture, right? Like biology and DNA, and parenting and society. Is not anything that's hard and fast, okay? Things just sound better. Like environmental technician sounds better than a janitor. Yeah, so that's what I'm saying. Like if it's just one time where we're maybe slightly exaggerating our title, that's one thing. But if you consistently see this overinflation of the sense of self and station and establishments, right? Like how established you are, there's an exaggeration or a blatant lie about it, then folks have a sense like they're having some narcissistic tendencies, okay? So question 2, I am 29. He is 23. Do you think it can work out? I am 29. He is 23. So you think it can work out? Is what it says literally. So you think it can work out. Okay. So yesterday I had a live stream with a coach. Her name is LB, the wife coach, right? At the wife coach. Amazing lady. Gives amazing advice in regards to how to transform from a married woman to a wife. And she describes in the live stream what the difference is. So if anybody's interested, it's still on my page, right? In my IGTV. So the question came up yesterday saying, how long should one wait until they are married? Is there anything as too fast, really? It wasn't talking about too slow, it was talking about too fast. And what the wife coach said, she said that there is no such thing because everyone's story is different. So what may take someone 3 weeks to recognize, may take someone 3 months to recognize, may take someone 3 years to recognize. There is no hard and fast rules in regards to falling in love, right? Or there are no hard and fast rules as to whether or not a relationship will be successful between those two people. There are telltale signs, there are healthy things that a couple should be doing, but there are no hard and fast rules. So to answer your question, I am 29, he is 23, so you think it can work out? Can it work out? Yes. Is there a possibility on this earth that it could work out? Yes. I don't know if that's your question. I don't know if the deeper question is, do I think it'll work out? Or what are the chances that it'll work out? The chances that it'll work out are slim. And I'm going to tell you why. Relatively speaking, someone who is 23 in their early 20s, they're still figuring out who they are. And 2, so I went from 1 to 2. 1, they're still trying to figure out who they are. And then 2, they may not be or have the desire to settle down at this point. And I wouldn't even recommend it. I would not recommend that someone who's 23 years old commits to anyone, no matter their age in this particular point, right? So a 23-year-old, I would recommend that they should date, that they should see different people, that they should explore their desires. They should see what they like and what they don't like. They should check out the market, because how are you making such a serious decision with limited experience? So my general recommendation to anyone who's 23 is to not commit necessarily. Or, I mean, I shouldn't say or, I should say, but you should let the person know what your intentions are. You should always be upfront. But we may not be looking for commitment, or if you commit, please expect that the commitment may not be very long, right? Like, you may have a girlfriend that you are committed to, or a boyfriend that you are committed to, but if that commitment lasts very long, we shall see. Folks are young and they're growing and they're developing, and who they are at 23 is not who they are at 26 or 36 or 46. And it shouldn't be. Like, you should not be the same person. And if you're not the same person, then you probably will not be attracted to the same things or have the same desires that you have 3 years, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years down the line. And especially at such a young age, this person at 23 is going to be developing a lot faster. Look at how much growth and development happens between birth, day 0 and year 5 and year 10 and year 15 and year 20, right? Now, the growth and development may slow down as we get older, right? I'm not getting any taller after age 21. I might get wider, but I'm not getting any taller, right? I mean, my frontal lobe is still developing, and we're still growing and developing through our experiences, but our physical growth isn't changing, and our personality isn't drastically changing into our 30s, 40s, 50s, so on and so forth, right? Somebody who's 23 is very young and should have the flexibility and the space to grow and develop. And having an expectation of a level of maturity at 23 is probably unrealistic. Also, and BZ the King already said it, and welcome and thank you for joining. He said 23 for men is different than 29-year-old women, especially in mindset. A 23-year-old man isn't usually in the same space as a 23-year-old woman. So you're already talking about, generally speaking, women, girls, females, however you want to put it, develop faster than their male counterparts when they're the same age. Look at a 3rd grade class, right? The boys are little shrimps and the girls are super tall. So girls tend to develop not only physically, but emotionally, mentally, every other way, right? Faster than boys. And that's when they're the same age. So now you're putting in a 6-year gap, and that 6-year gap is in someone's 20s. He's in the prime of his sexual life in regards to exploration, right? So I am 29, he is 23. So you think it can work out. Can it work out? I think it can. Will it work out? I don't know how practical that may be. Okay. I had one more question, but it was not in the stories, and I don't know if I screenshotted it. So I do not recall. But while I look this up, beautiful people, what I would like for you to do, if you have any questions that you'd like for me to address, go ahead and put it in the bubble that has the question mark. It's at the bottom of your screen right here. I hope so. And I hope it's not right there. Right there, right? If you have any questions you'd like for me to cover, to discuss, to answer, and please give us feedback. Thank you so much for BZ for your feedback. Thank you so much for Polona for your feedback. Thank you so much. There was someone who gave us a definition, and I appreciated it. Pile Lady to you. Thank you so much for your feedback. All right. If you have any questions or any thoughts or anything, please feel free to share it. If you have a question, I will for sure share it privately. I will not put your name out there. Okay. So no, I didn't screenshot the last question. Nonetheless, let me just do a quick wrap up. I'll wait for any questions to come up if they do. If you're just joining, my name is Alison from Align with Alison. I'm a dating and relationship coach. I primarily work with women to help them find the love and commitment that they deserve. You have just joined my weekly Q&A live session. On Tuesday, I take questions in regards to romance, familial issues, any kind of relationship issues I take in my stories, and then I share the questions here with you guys anonymously, answering them and then asking for your own feedback. Also, during this Q&A live stream, I am more than happy to take your questions in the bubble that's at the bottom of the screen. I will not share your question on the screen. I will read it without sharing it so that you stay anonymous. And then I will give you feedback as an internationally certified a relationship coach. So I do have a question that's here. Let me take it. Be very careful not to share it. Ooh, okay. Someone asked an amazing question. Okay, good. This was the question that you asked me via DM, I think, or comment. So thank you for sharing it again, because I forgot to screenshot it and then it would have went on my iPad and you don't care, but thank you. Okay, so the question I was asked is thoughts on moving in before marriage. Thoughts on moving in before marriage. Okay, so obviously we know what the tradition is, right? So the tradition is normally for a couple to not cohabitate before marriage. We all know that that's the tradition in American society, right? And lots of other societies. However, we are a lot more progressive, and I would even say secular, than what we have been in years past. And so it is very normal in this day and age for people to live together before marriage. Now, I would love to hear what you guys think in regards to, should a couple live together before marriage? I'm going to give you my take, and my take is a secular one, okay? So my take is, I think there is a lot of value that you can get from living with someone before you are married. That gives you the idea of how they function in a household before you do the full-on commitment to them. It lets you know their level of cleanliness. It lets you know what their expectations are. It lets you know how you would function in this relationship living together. So I do find value in living together before a couple is married. Now, I do see the downside of living together before a couple is married. Everyone has heard the expression, I'm sure, that why would you buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? And so there is a fear, especially coming from women, right? That if they allow their mate to live with them before they get married, then their concern is, well, why would he be interested in marriage if he already has full access to how he would be treated, to the benefits of marriage once we live together, right? Which is a legitimate concern. Like, that's a logical perspective to come from. And I have Coach Stephen L. Robinson who says, depends. I'm coming from a biblical perspective, so I say no. Yeah, so it depends, right? If you're coming from a religious standpoint, then the response is going to be no, and that's easy. If you're coming from a more secular response, right, then, or more liberal, then your response is going to say it depends on what you're looking for. Nonetheless, going back to the original point, I understand the concern. Like, that is a legitimate concern. My fear is, will this gentleman want to marry me still, right? Or will my partner want to marry me still? If he has, and this is usually a he-she thing, right? So I'm talking in he's and she's. If he has full access to all of the benefits of marriage, if he is receiving meals, right? If you're a woman who cooks, if he is getting his laundry done, if the house is going to be cleaned, if he has 24/7 access to me, right? When he comes home, he gets the joys of being with his girlfriend versus getting access 2 or 3 days a week. And everything else, all of the other joys of marriage. Why would he then decide to marry me if he has that access? Now, even though I understand that logic, let me tell you what I think is problematic with that logic. What I find is problematic is that if someone believes in the institution or the sanctity of marriage, living with you would not change their mind on it unless they decide not to marry you, right? But the actual belief in marriage, or the desire to be married, right? Or the desire to make it legal, to make it official, whatever you want to call it, would not change because of moving in. The desire to marry you might change, or you might change your desire to marry him as a result of living together. But the actual belief in the institution of marriage would not change as a result. So when women say, even though I understand the logic, but when women say, why buy the cow if you can get the milk for free? If he has a desire to buy the cow, he's going to buy the cow no matter if the milk is easily available, right? And I mean, we shouldn't really be calling ourselves cows, but you get the point because everyone's familiar with the expression. So Chica Bonita, as I lovingly know as Speedy, says, I think, yes, you do need to live with someone before you marry them. You don't have to start a family yet, but you can definitely operate in spirit of the covenant to be certain that this step is for both people. Don't be a wife to a boyfriend. Let's get it clear here, ladies, right? Stephen says that's a great point. Thank you, Stephen. And laughter attracts joy says true. So let's talk about this a little bit, especially because Chica Bonita, aka Speedy, says it. Don't be a wife to a boyfriend. Okay, so this is her opinion. Let's talk about that a little bit. What does that look like? What does it look like to be a wife versus being a girlfriend, right? Or even what does it look like to be a wife versus being a married woman? So I speak extensively with @TheWifeCoach just yesterday all about that, what it means to be a girlfriend, what it means to be a wife, and what it means to be a married woman, and how all those things are different. So instead of bogging you guys down with that, what I'd like for you to do is to go ahead and check out the 40-minute live stream. You don't have to watch all 40 minutes, but you get the point. We talk about it in depth right on my IGTV. All you have to do is, once we're done and I end the live, go ahead and check it out, and we talk about wifedom. Right? I don't know if that's a real word, but it sounds good. We talk about wifedom and what it means to be a wife. Okay. Nonetheless, I'm going to wrap it up here. And I'm so glad that you guys have joined us. I was going to say joined us, but joined us today. I just want to remind you that I have an amazing free training called The Partner You Deserve. It is absolutely free. It's an hour and a half. It talks about the work that you need to do in order to find your appropriate match. And it talks about the work you need to put in order to find the person, right? How to attract the right mate, but more importantly, how to repel the wrong ones. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of this. Please share this live stream with anyone who you think could benefit. Please share this page with anyone who you think can benefit. And I love you all. Check out my IGTV. I have a whole bunch of gems on there. Also on my YouTube. The link is in my bio. I love you all. You're amazing. And thank you for joining. And I will be seeing you at minimum next week. If not, I'm sure I'll have some amazing guests as I do go live Monday through Thursday at approximately 7 p.m. Love you all. Adios, amigos.